good afternoon. I hope this finds all of you safe and happy in spite of what's going on in our world. And, I want to say I don't go around dressed up all the time with makeup on. This is the 40th day that I have been shuttered in, and the first day that I've put on makeup or have dressed. But I was doing a Zoom presentation for my business. I'm a therapist and I'm a treatment center, and so we were working on that. And since I was dressed, I thought I would talk and visit with y'all for a few minutes. Today is the 7th anniversary of my Mr. Mac, my sweet husband's death. His passing was April the 17th, 7 years ago. And he was one of the sweetest men in the world until he wasn't, like most of us. We're sweet till we're not. But I miss him every single solitary day. And so I wanted to talk just a few minutes about grief. And I think a lot of people are going through grief at this time of our world with the coronavirus. I think there's grief everywhere. And sometimes it's hard for us to recognize what grief really is. And I have suffered from an eating disorder since age 4, being a compulsive overeater, and ate myself up to almost 300 pounds. And then I became a bulimic and practiced bulimia for 12 years. But I've been in recovery for 35 years. And, using food or using any substance is not an option for me anymore. When I have feelings, I must feel them. And so I'm not a depressed person, but the last few days I have been feeling really down and really depressed. And I have my dear friend, Misty Calk, who's also my prayer partner. We were talking and she said, she calls me Minnie, that's what my grandchildren call me. And she said, Minnie, did you realize that this is the week that your husband passed away? And on one level, I knew it. I knew this was the week, but I didn't have a conscious thought that I couldn't connect the grief, the sadness with the grief of his dying, his death. And once she said that, I realized that's what's been going on. And that's why we need to stay grouped up around people who know us and who are on the same spiritual path as we're on, so they can help us recognize and see where we are in different situations and different times of our lives. So after I was able to realize that, yes, it was grief of his dying and missing him still. I still miss him every day. And so I got to thinking about grief. And, it's hard when we're in it individually. And I'm a therapist. I've been in the field for over 40 years. I teach this stuff. I do workshops on grief. But when it's my own situation, I forget the answers sometimes. So, I had to review what grief really is. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she didn't start out to make grief her life study. She just needed to do a paper for her master's degree, and actually did a paper on grief and wrote the book on death and dying. And how she got the information, she went to a large university hospital to talk with the head of nursing. If you really want to know what goes on in a hospital, talk to the head of nursing. And what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wanted to do was to interview people that were dying. And the first words out of this woman's mouth was, well, we don't have any dying people here. And keep in mind that there was a morgue in the basement of the hospital. It was a large university hospital and people were dying. So that's where Elizabeth Kubler-Ross got the first stage of grief, is denial that it's even happening. I think that's what happened to a lot of us at 9/11. We couldn't grasp the seriousness of what happened, and so we denied that it was real. And like now, it's hard to grasp how serious this virus is, and sometimes I think we might deny how serious it is until we look around and we're all at home alone and shuttered in. And so once you pass that denial grief and realize, hey, this is real, then we try the bargaining stage. Bargaining is we bargain with God, like, God, don't let this happen to me. Or we bargain, Like with the shut-in, well, can I go here? Can I go there? We start the bargaining process. And then once we can't bargain ourselves out of the problem, then we get angry. And anger is a good place to be in the grief process. Why wouldn't we be angry of what's happening in our world? But if we stay in the anger, it's not productive. But if we can be in the anger long enough to feel those feelings, what will happen, usually what comes up after the anger, is pain, is depression, is the sadness. And that's when, for addicts like me, a food addict, or for an alcoholic or a drug addict, when we get into that pain, what we call it is going through the dark night of the soul. When we get there, the danger for an addict is that's when we use. That's when we'll pick up a substance and use, because the pain is very real. But in recovery, we don't have that option. We have to feel the feelings and go through it. Feelings will not kill us. Not feeling them will. When we hold the feelings on the inside, the body accommodates the mind, and what starts happening is we'll break down in stress-related illnesses, stomach problems, respiratory, you name it. Our bodies cannot handle the pain of grief for very long. But if you can stay with the pain and go through that process, and it hurts bad. And then the next step is, it's like, okay, God, I can't do this anymore. I surrender. And when we can surrender, it's that letting go. I don't like what's happening. I wished it was different, but I surrender. I give it up. Left to my own devices, I can't change this situation. And once we get there, we get to a place of acceptance. And when we get to a place of acceptance, it's almost like being almost childlike. That's when the joy can return. We can find things to be happy about. We can do a gratitude list. We can call neighbors. We can get out of ourselves and into someone else. When we're all wrapped up into ourselves and in our own little problems and schemes and pain and all, when we're all wrapped up into ourselves, we make a poor package. And so it's important for us to get out of ourselves in some way. And sometimes it has to start with writing, just writing it all down, sharing it with a safe person. If you believe in God, get on your knees and pray. If you don't, I support you in finding a God of your understanding. We all need a God of our understanding during this time or any time. So there's a way to go through the grief process. And if you can't do it by yourself, call someone that would understand and talk about it. Talking about feelings is the healthiest thing that we can do. Talk about it, write about it, and then find someone else to help. Call someone, ask how they're doing. We have to get out of ourselves and into service for others. I hope you get something out of this, and I'm going to the cemetery. It's cold today, but my daughters and I are going to ride out to the cemetery. I know my husband's not there, but it is a sweet reminder to go out there with my daughters, and my son's already been out there today. But to go out and just visit and honor him, because he was a wonderful man, and we all miss him every day. Have a great day. The reason I'm wearing red, by the way, that was his favorite color. I don't care what I wore, he wanted it to be red. So I'm wearing red in Ariel's honor today. Have a great day, and this is my very first video for Instagram, and I hope it goes well.